Hello everyone, Justin Vacula here with video number 21 in my Stoic Philosophy video series. Today's video will be on the topic of handling adversity. You can find me online at justinvacula.com, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. This video follows a recent presentation that I gave. I've been hosting discussion groups in the Philadelphia area with the Humanist Association of Greater Philadelphia, talking about different topics in Stoic philosophy. The last one was handling adversity. I uploaded short clips, but now want to make a video discussing various topics that I talked about. A common theme throughout Epictetus Discourses is to limit desires in general, particularly unhealthy desires, and question whether what we desire is reasonable. It seems to me that many desires can lead us to a lot of stress, a lot of worry, and a lot of adversity. So let's get to it. Many desires, such as want of fame, reputation, and wealth, for instance, are largely out of our control, according to Epictetus. Emphasizing the fact that we can create problems in our own minds, he advocates for focusing on what is in our control in order to live a more content, productive life filled with less worry and hardship. Having more and more desires can lead us to a position of distress, unneeded and unproductive adversity created from within. We can be troubled by worry and continue to live with an unhealthy amount of anxiety and fear while focusing on what is outside of our control rather than what we have control over. Instead of worrying so much, Epictetus encourages us to handle certain outcomes when they arrive, and in the meantime doing our best to maintain good character and a tranquil mind. He writes in his Discourses, "All of the difficulties and perplexities of men arise in connection with externals. What shall I do? How will it come about? How will it turn out? I am afraid that this or that may befall me." All this is talk of people who are occupied with things outside the sphere of choice. Now, as to how things will turn out, does that not lie outside of the sphere of choice? Is it in your power then to make use of whatever turns out in accordance with nature? No longer say to me, how will it come to pass? However it comes to pass, you will turn it into good use, and the outcome will be fortunate to you. So here, focusing on what is in our control, not having this egregious worry about the future, what might happen, what could happen. We can talk about these things, we can think about these things, but if it leads us to a position of so much worry and not focusing on the present, not focusing on how we can do our best in order to work toward a good outcome, we have to really think about the process rather than just worrying and worrying and worrying. Well, we can make a good effort now to see that the future would be a good place as far as we have control over that. But just ruminating about this endlessly, oh, what if this happens, what if that happens? Well, we're just going to have to get out, take action, and do what we can to live a good life and have good character in the meantime. Maybe even limiting some of our desires, having some expectations, saying this is how I want it to turn out. Well, we can have certain goals, but how much of that is in our control? We have to think about that on a situation-to-situation basis. Right? Here's some more about desires. Epictetus writes about how we can compare ourselves to others and be distraught because we might not have what they have. Again, it may not be in our power to have such riches and power like others have, and even having such things might not lead to a good life. Certain desires may corrupt us, and that we might lose modesty, freedom, self-respect, and have an unquenchable thirst for more. He writes, "When you see another in power, set against that the fact that you have the advantage of not wanting power. When you see another rich, see what you have instead of the riches. For if you have nothing in their stead, you are miserable. But if you have the advantage of not needing riches, know that you have something more than he has, and of far greater value. Do you not know what the thirst of a man in his fever is like? It is no resemblance to that of a person in health. A healthy man drinks, and his thirst is gone. But the other, after a brief gratification, feels nauseous, turns the water into bile, vomits, suffers colic pains, and is far thirstier than ever before. It is much the same to have wealth, and yet covet it, have power, and yet covet it." Here, I think it's also important to note that many people who have money are still unhappy. They want more, they desire more, even though that they have great wealth, even though they have maybe a lot of people around them, maybe they have a lot of pleasure. Well, maybe that doesn't do them good. Maybe it creates more problems in their lives, more money, more problems in a way. From what I've seen in some research and literature, that at some point, once you have your basic life needs met, Maybe you have health care, you have good food, you have a roof over your head. You can pay the bills and not worry so much about where the next paycheck or where the next money is going to come from, that you can be content with that. So instead of, say, wanting a lavish feast, some expensive wedding rings, some really expensive cars, a new car, this brand new house, whatever, maybe a more modest lifestyle can be preferable. People that they say, oh, we want this, we want that, maybe putting in all these hours of work, maybe this is leading you to a great deal of stress. Maybe this really isn't fun. It's not all it's cracked up to be. Whereas if you can have more balance in your life, you can limit your desires, you can be happy with what you have and live a more modest lifestyle, maybe this can be preferable. It's also worth noting that many people will corrupt themselves, that they'll give up, as I've said, their freedom, their self-respect, their modesty in order to meet certain desires. They might lie to others, they might not be genuine with themselves, they might exploit others, they might even harm themselves in the process. They might harm others. They can give up their values, and their wealth can be built on lies. Harming others, harming themselves. Is this really a position we want to be in? Epictetus would suggest that we maintain good character, that we be more modest in our lives, limit these desires, and be more content, rather than dealing with all this adversity of wanting more, never being satisfied. This isn't a good position to be in. Another common theme in Epictetus' discourses is being without fear, having a sort of invincible character and welcoming challenges that we can face, bearing circumstances and fulfilling roles in life, whatever they happen to be. Rather than lamenting our condition and giving up, we can rise to challenges with grace, even if we don't prefer certain things to happen, and especially when it's outside of our control. We can embrace a radical acceptance with confidence that our good character and judgments will help us properly handle adversity. Epictetus writes, being by nature noble, great of soul, and free, he sees that, of the things around him, he has some that are free from hindrance and under his own control, while others are subject to hindrance and under the control of others. What is to prevent a man who have grasped these things from living with a light and easy heart, gently awaiting whatever may befall him and bearing contentedly with what has already befallen him? Would you have me poor? Bring that on, and you will learn what poverty is when a good actor is playing the part. Would you have me hold office? Bring it. Would you have me out of office? Bring it. Would you have me suffer hardships? Bring hardships too, and exile. Wherever I go, it will be well with me, for it was well with me here, not on the account of the place, but of my judgments, which I shall carry away with me, for no one can deprive me of these. So I think what Epictetus is getting at here is that many things are going to happen to us. We're going to have different changes, different transitions in life, and we're just going to have to bear with them and do our best. We can still have good character in whatever these circumstances might be. A lot of these circumstances that can be outside of our control. Rather than just giving up, rather than complaining, well, we can just make do with what we have and work to better ourselves. We can maintain this good character throughout life. Maybe riches will come and go, maybe people will come and go, maybe certain jobs will come and go, but that's all right. It's something that's inevitable. Maybe it's not preferable, but again, this is something that can be outside of our control. So maintain good character, accept what comes, and do our best given the circumstances. Returning to talk about reputation, many can make great pains to be concerned about what others think about them, perhaps pretending to be someone they are not, flattering others, sacrificing their own values, making extreme compromises, and, once again, being worried about worry. Reputation, though, on Epictetus' view, is something outside of our control. Rather than worrying so much about what others think, we can instead choose to be focused on behaving with good character and living a good life while caring for ourselves. He writes, what kind of thing, then, is another's opinion about you? Something that lies outside the sphere of choice. It is nothing, then, to you. What sort of person do you strike yourself as being? What kind of person in your thoughts, in your desires, in your aversions, in your impulse, preparation, intention, in the other works proper to man, yet you are worried about whether other people pity you. So what is it that distresses you? So here, if we have good character, we behave well, that's the paramount concern. We're going to want to lead a good life. There will be others who will not like us for whatever reasons. Perhaps it's an issue that they're having about themselves. Perhaps they're in a bad mood. Perhaps they're handling adversity in a poor way. They're just lashing out at others. Well, okay, we can try to convince other people, to sway people our way, but no matter what we do, we're not going to please everyone. So why try? We could just live a good life, behave with good character, and perhaps we'll get that respect. But not really look for it, not really try so hard to do it, and certainly not compromise ourselves in the way. Maybe someone in a customer service position will want a good appearance. Maybe they'll want others to give them bigger tips. Perhaps they'll be extra nice toward people. Perhaps they'll go out of their way. They'll make some concessions. Okay, maybe there's some compromise there. Surely a salesperson would also be very concerned about what others think about them. Okay, fine. Maybe that can be something for consideration. But just in general, we're not going to please everyone. We can just make our own effort to try to give a good appearance, to behave in a professional manner, to behave in whatever circumstance we're in. Just live a good life. Reputation may come. It may not come, but let's not get so stressed about it if we have some dissenters, if some people don't like us. That's another thing that's simply outside of our control on Epictetus' view. One way of handling adversity is to think ahead, anticipate what may happen in the future, perhaps preparing for the worst, and doing our best to avoid negative outcomes when we can. In doing this, perhaps we won't be overwhelmed when facing hardships. Epictetus writes, "If any of those things that are called undesirable should happen, it will be, in the first place, an immediate relief to you that it was not unexpected. For it is no small thing to say on every such occasion, I knew that I had begotten a mortal. For that is what you will say, and furthermore, I knew I was liable to die. I knew I was liable to leave home. I knew I was liable to be exiled. I knew I was liable to be imprisoned." So again, a lot of things are going to happen to us. There will be changes. There will be transitions in our life. There will be things that we might not like. But this is something that could happen. This is something that we can prepare for. How are we going to deal with these circumstances? Again, in behaving with good character, we can handle these circumstances well. We can simply accept what happens. We can think about the future, but not spiral into excessive worry about it. If we think, what are some negative things that could happen, we can be prepared for it. We can say, well, okay, that possibly happened, so now let's deal with it. Let's cope with it. Let's just accept what happened and try to do our best given the circumstance. Coping with loss and grief can be a significant challenge. People may depend on other people or things. Becoming attached and facing devastation in certain circumstances happen. Epictetus encourages us to remember that change, including death, is part of our mortal condition. Perhaps understanding that change will happen, again, another thing which can be outside of our control, this can reduce anxiety and help us better value the present. He writes, "When you become attached to something, let it not be as though it were to something that cannot be taken away, but rather as though it were to something like an earthenware pot or a crystal goblet, so that if it happens to be broken, you may remember what kind of thing it was and not be distressed." So in this too, when you kiss your child or your brother or your friend, never entirely give way to your imagination and not allow your relation to progress as far as it will, but curb it, restrain it, like those who are generals when they ride in triumph, and remind them, they are men in a similar way. You too should remind yourself that what you love is mortal, that what you love is not your own. It is granted to you for the present while and not irrevocably, not forever. Again, this theme of change, that people, that things are going to come and go, so our attachment shouldn't be so wholly with it. But that can also inspire us to live more in the moment, in the present, to value the relations, to value the people around us, to value even some of the things around us, but not in such a manner that we'll be devastated that we can't continue living without something or someone else. We have to bear these circumstances, focus on our own interests in some way, not become too attached to other people and things so that we can't function without them. Perhaps new people will come along, perhaps new friendships, new relationships will emerge, but people around us are going to die. Things are going to fade. Things are going to break down. It's something that we simply have to accept. This is part of the human condition. But we can bear this with good character. We can anticipate these outcomes, that these things are going to come. It might be difficult. We can acknowledge that we're going to lose people and things that we love, but we're going to have to accept that, for that's simply part of the human condition. So value these relationships, surround ourselves with good people, surround ourselves with good things, and even limit the things we have. Maybe even limit the people around us, to choose good friends, to make choices about where we go, who we surround ourselves with, and bear the circumstances that are outside of our control. Maybe the people around us that we don't particularly like. Maybe we can have a balance in life, or maybe some people who will go to work, be around people they don't like. Well, maybe you can associate yourselves with others outside of that sphere and value those relationships. People will come and go. Things will come and go. So let's handle that. Let's accept that. Finally, we'll experience hardships and temporary changes in our lives. Maybe we'll have to make certain sacrifices of time, money, or change our environments as a means to an end. While doing so, we should not be totally distracted from our goals, and remember what we seek to achieve. Being distracted from our goals can lead to failure and missed opportunity. Epictetus writes, "People behave like a traveler who, returning to his own country, comes across a good inn on the road, and because the inn pleases him, he remains there. Have you not forgotten your intention, man? You are not traveling to this place, but only through it. But this is a fine inn. And how many other fine inns are there, and how many pleasant meadows? But only to be passed through on the way. For you have not, I think, come into this world to pick out the most charming places." The theme in Stoic literature here is that the pleasure shouldn't be the primary focus, that there will be pleasurable things in life, but what are our goals? What are the good things in life that are sustainable, such as virtue, such as good character? The pleasure will come and go, but is that going to be our main focus? Maybe on a journey to accomplish a certain goal, there will be a certain temptation. There will be certain changes that we'll have to make. Maybe we won't be able to focus on studies so much because we'll have to take up a job to pay for certain life expenses. Well, let's not be distracted from our studies. Let's not totally abandon some goals that we have. Maybe people will take up another job in order to care for their children, but at the same time, let's not abandon those children, and let's actually focus on what the goal was. Why did we start doing this? Why did we make this change? Well, let's stay focused on that instead of being distracted and placing all of our effort into one box. Let's be well-rounded, let's have balance in life, and let's focus on what's most important. All right, so some thoughts here on handling adversity. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe. You can find me online at justinvacula.com, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you like this work, feel free to support me by donating. You can visit my website for that. You'll also see some other videos. I recently appeared on a podcast, talk about Stoicism and politics, current events. So check that out on my website, and stay tuned for more videos. Thank you for your time. Thank you for watching.